students, welcome to the lecture on applets, strings, and characters. And after the lecture, we will be able to learn the following objectives. Define the concept of applet, explain the applet architecture, discuss embedding applets in web page, explain about fundamentals of characters and strings, understand about string operations. Let's start with a brief introduction to applets, strings, and characters. Applets are small programs that are primarily used in internet computing. An applet is a part of a web page, just like an image or hyperlink. It owns some rectangular area of the user's screen. It can draw whatever it wants and respond to keyboard and mouse events in that area. When the web browser loads the page that contains a Java applet, it knows how to load the classes of the applet and run them. Applet does not need to be installed. It is downloaded from the remote computer and browser runs it. Applets differ from regular applications in several important ways. An applet does not have a main brackets method like a standalone Java application does. Writing an applet is a lot more like subclassing an AWT or swing component than writing a standalone application. An applet is not invoked using the command line as a Java application is. Instead, an applet is embedded within an HTML file with an applet tag. And instead of reading command line arguments as an application does, an applet gets its arguments from param tags in the HTML file. An applet is usually subject to a number of strict security restrictions that prevent untrusted and possibly malicious applet code from damaging the host system.
What's up guys, it's Bucky and welcome to your 20th Intermediate Java tutorial. And in this tutorial we are finally going to be going over applets, and this is probably the most common use of Java on the internet. What an applet is pretty much basically in essence a way of using a Java program through your internet browser. So this is how people can share, if you ever played RuneScape, that's what this is. If you have like a Scottrade account, they use applets heavily. So actually, if you want to just view a couple examples of a Java applet, go ahead to your computer. Let's go computer, and let's see if I can find it under C, program files, under Java, your JDK version, click, let's see, I think it's under demo, applets. This is a list of applets that's pretty much built into the JDK whenever you install it. So go ahead and click like draw test or something like that, and now you see you have a bunch of classes in the Java file. And this example right here is actually a URL, a Firefox document. So if you want to check and you want to see if you have the applet container, which is pretty much the way you use applets, let me minimize this so I can actually get it in my screen recorder. See, this is a Java program that is able to be used from the browser itself. So this is called draw test, and I didn't build this, it comes with your JDK. Go ahead and click points and pick a color. So here's just a real quick example of how you can have a Java program running right inside your internet browser. So this is what we're going to be creating in these next tutorials, but nothing this advanced right now. So let's go ahead, and the first thing we want to do is create a real basic applet. So go ahead and click import Java AWT, and what this is gonna, well, these are just your imports. You want to import Java X Swing as well, and the way you even set up a class is a little bit different. In order to create a class, you need to have it extend JApplet, and this is the class used to create applets. So let's go ahead and get started. Enough of me talking. Public class, I'm just gonna name mine Bucky, and it needs to extend JApplet. And like I said, this is a class that you need to inherit from, because this tells Java you're going to be creating an applet. Now, why do you inherit from it? Because anytime your browser tries to open an applet, there are certain methods that it needs to have, and the methods are in JApplet, so that's why you need to inherit from there. And you can of course override them, which we'll be learning to do later on, but for now I'm just gonna make a real basic, pretty much the most basic thing I can have. So what we want to do is we just want to paint something or print it on the screen. So go ahead and make a method public void paint, and of course you remember from our, not even our intermediate tutorials, these are our tutorials from long ago. You pass a graphics object in named G, and this allows you to paint on the screen or pretty much print text. So let's call a superclass of paint and pass it in that G that we just created. And now with our drawing object, which is G, we can draw strings on the screen. So draw string, and it takes 3 parameters. The iterator, which is pretty much the text, I don't know why they named it the iterator. We'll type wow, this actually worked. You can type anything you want. And the X and Y is of course the positioning. Put it 25 across and 25 down. So now here is our very first applet, and the cool thing about Eclipse is, of course, whenever we created a website, we want to go in with our FTP, but with Eclipse, you don't have to do all that. All you have to do is press run, press OK, and it'll start the applet viewer right for you. So here's your applet viewer, here's your status bar, this means the applet started, and here is our applet itself. So this would usually appear once you go to like someone's website like Scottrade or RuneScape or something. This would pop up, but for now it's just going to pop up as a standalone without having to do your web browser.
Now we will understand the concept of applet. An applet is a small application designed to run within another application. While the term applet is sometimes used to describe small programs included within a computer's operating system, it usually refers to Java applets, or small applications written in the Java programming language. Unlike ordinary applications, Java applets cannot be run directly by the operating system. Instead, they must run within the Java Runtime Environment, JRE, or within another program that includes a Java plugin. If there is no JRE installed, Java applets will not run. Fortunately, Java is freely available for Windows, Mac, and Linux systems to easily download and install the appropriate JRE for the system. A few definitions of applet: a small application, a secure program that runs inside a web browser, a subclass of java.applet.applet, an instance of a subclass of java.applet.applet. An example of applet is shown on the screen. Here we will talk about applet's lifecycle and methods. The java.applet.applet class defines these callback methods for managing the lifecycle of the applets. Init method, called back only once, when the applet is first loaded to initialize variables, resize the applet, setting up GUI components, and etc. Start method, called back by the browser after the init method to start the applet running, similar to main method in Java application. The start method is run every time the applet becomes active after it has been inactive. Stop method, called back when the user leaves the page on which the applet is running, reloads the page, or minimizes the browser to terminate the applet's running threads. Destroy method, called back when the applet is about to be purged from memory. Multi-threaded applets can use destroy method to stop any live threads. Normally, the Java garbage collector takes care of memory management. Paint method, called back when the applet drawing area must be refreshed, example, another window partially covers the applet, etc. Limitation of applet. Applets are quarantined within the browser by an applet security manager. Most browsers impose a few restrictions on untrusted applets. Untrusted applets cannot read or write files on the local applets. Untrusted applets cannot open network connections only to the server from which they originated. Untrusted applets cannot start other processes on the local host. Untrusted applets cannot have native methods. Advantages of applet. Applets are cross-platform and can run on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux platform. Applets can work all the version of Java plugin. Applets run in a sandbox so the user does not need to trust the code, so it can work without security approval. Applets are supported by most web browsers. Applets are cached in most web browsers, so will be quick to load when returning to a web page. User can also have full access to the machine if user allows. Disadvantages of Java applet. Java plugin is required to run applet. Java applet requires JVM, so first time it takes significant startup time. If applet is not ready, cached in the machine, it will be downloaded from internet and will take time. It is difficult to design and build good user interface in applets compared to HTML technology. Let's discuss about the applet architecture. First, applets are event-driven. It is important to understand in a general way how the event-driven architecture impacts the design of an applet. An applet resembles a set of interrupt service routines. Here is how the process works. An applet waits until an event occurs. The runtime system notifies the applet about an event by calling an event handler that has been provided by the applet. Once this happens, the applet must take appropriate action and then quickly return. This is a crucial point. For the most part, the applet should not enter a mode of operation in which it maintains control for an extended period. Instead, it must perform specific actions in response to events and then return control to the runtime system. Java Runtime Environment. With the Java plugin, applets are not run in the JVM inside the browser. Instead, they are executed in a separate process. The same JVM process can be shared between multiple applets, or applets may be placed into different processes depending on whether the existing JVMs match the applet requirements and have enough resources to execute the applet. An applet can request a specific version of JRE to be used and can specify what options need to be passed to the JVM. An applet can also request to be executed in the separate JVM. This architecture provides a number of benefits. Applets that require different versions of the JRE can run simultaneously. Applets can specify JRE startup parameters such as heap size. The message passing interfaces are written in Java, so they run on all supported platforms, in the same way, so cross-browser compatibility is enhanced. Thread considerations. A web browser's JavaScript interpreter engine is single-thread. The Java plugin is capable of managing multiple threads. The Java plugin creates a separate worker thread for every applet. Applets themselves may be multi-threaded. Applets making JavaScript to Java calls and vice versa should be designed with the thread-related issues in mind. Parameters to applet. Java applet has the feature of retrieving the parameter values passed from the HTML page, so one can pass the parameters from HTML page to the applet embedded in page. The param tag is used to pass the parameters to an applet. Printing the value. In the function paint, graphics G, one prints the parameter value to test the value passed from HTML page. Applet will display, "Hello, Java applet," if no parameters passed to the applet, else it will display the value passed as parameter. Applet should display "Welcome" in passing parameter. Here is the code for the Java program. And here's the code for the HTML program. Compile the program by javac applet parameter.java. The output after running the program will be "Welcome" in passing parameter in Java applet example. Now we will talk about embedding applets in web page. Hypertext Markup Language, or HTML, is the language of web pages. A basic HTML page might display only text when loaded in a web browser. However, unlike normal ASCII text, HTML lets mark up text using various embedded tags that are invisible to a person viewing the page via a web browser. This tags a web page that has most of the features of a word processor document. The actual HTML code for embedding the image looks like as shown on the screen. As was described in applets and web browsers, an applet is a program that runs inside an HTML page that is loaded in a web browser. While an applet may offer features that are nearly as complex as the web browser in which it is running, the task of embedding the applet in a web page is quite simple. The basic skeleton of an applet tag looks like as shown on the screen. Here we will know about applet security policies. One of the most important features of Java is its security model. It allows untrusted code, such as applets downloaded from arbitrary websites, to be run in a restricted environment that prevents that code from doing anything malicious, like deleting files or sending fake email. The Java security model has evolved considerably between Java 1.0 and Java 1.2. To write applets, one does not need to understand the entire Java security model. What you do need to know is that when your applet is run as untrusted code, it is subject to quite a few security restrictions that limit the kinds of things it can do. This describes those security restrictions and also describes how you can attach a digital signature to applets, so that users can treat them as trusted code and run them in a less restrictive environment. The list details the security restrictions that are typically imposed on untrusted applet code. Untrusted code cannot read from or write to the local file system. This means that untrusted code cannot read files, list directories, check for the existence of files, obtain the size or modification date of files, obtain the read and write permissions of a file, test whether a file name is a file or directory, write files, delete files, create directories, rename files, read or write from file descriptor objects. Let's talk about the fundamentals of characters and strings. A char is a single character, that is, a letter, a digit, a punctuation mark, a tab, a space, or something similar. A char literal is a single one character enclosed in single quote marks as shown on the screen. Some characters are hard to type. For these, Java provides escape sequences. This is a backslash followed by an alphanumeric code. For instance, \n is the new line character. \t is the tab character. \\/ is the backslash itself. Some escape sequences are defined as shown on the screen. Strings. Strings, which are widely used in Java programming, are a sequence of characters. In the Java programming language, strings are objects. The Java platform provides the string class to create and manipulate strings. Creating strings. The most direct way to create a string is to write string greeting, that is, quotation marks, hello world, semicolon, quotation marks, hello world. Is a string literal? A series of characters in code that is enclosed in double quotes. Whenever it encounters a string literal in the code, the compiler creates a string object with its value hello world exclamation mark. As with any other object, one can create string objects by using the new keyword and a constructor. The string class has 13 constructors that allow providing the initial value of the string using different sources, such as an array of characters as shown here. The string class. String class is immutable. Example, strings in Java, once created and initialized, cannot be changed on the same reference. A java.lang.string class is final, which implies no class and extends it. The java.lang.string class differs from other classes. One difference being that the string objects can be used with the plus equal to and plus operators for concatenation. Two useful methods for string objects are equals method and substring method. The equals method is used for testing whether two strings contain the same value. The substring method is used to obtain a selected portion of a string.java.lang.string class creation. A simple string can be created using a string literal enclosed inside double quotes as shown here. Since a string literal is a reference, it can be manipulated like any other string reference. The reference value of a string literal can be assigned to another string reference. If two or more strings have the same set of characters in the same sequence, then they share the same reference in memory. The code written on the screen illustrates this phenomenon. Now we will talk about string operations. Strings are a common and important part of programming. Java has added special support for several string operations within the syntax of the language. These operations include the automatic creation of new string instances from string literals, concatenation of multiple string objects by use of the plus operator, and the conversion of other data types to a string. String literals is created by a string instance from an array of characters by using the new operator. However, there is an easier way to do this using a string literal. Java automatically constructs a string object. Thus, one can use a string literal to initialize a string object. String concatenation. Java does not allow operators to be applied to string objects. The one exception to this rule is the plus operator, which concatenates two strings, producing a string object as a result. This allows one to chain together a series of plus operations. String concatenation with other data types. It is possible to concatenate strings with other types of data. Here age is an int rather than another string, but the output produced is the same as before. This is because the int value in age is automatically converted into its string representation within a string object. This string is then concatenated as before. The compiler will convert an operand to its string equivalent whenever the other operand of the plus is an instance of string. String-to-string method. To implement toString method, simply return a string object that contains the human-readable string that appropriately describes an object of the class. By overriding toString method for classes that creates, one allows them to be fully integrated into Java's programming environment. String buffer class and methods. String buffer class is a mutable class unlike the string class, which is immutable. Both the capacity and character string of a string buffer class and string buffer can be changed dynamically. String buffers are preferred when heavy modification of character strings is involved: appending, inserting, deleting, modifying, etc. Strings can be obtained from string buffers. Since the string buffer class does not override the equals method from the object class, contents of string buffers should be converted to string objects for string comparison. Creation of string buffers. Look at the code written on the screen to understand the creation of string buffers. Here we will talk about string buffer functions. Some of the basic string buffer methods are: 1. Capacity method. Returns the current capacity of the string buffer. 2. Length method. Returns the length, character count, of this string buffer. 3. Char_at method, int index. The specified character of the sequence currently represented by the string buffer as indicated by the index argument is returned. 4. SetChar_at method, int index char_ch. The character at the specified index of this string buffer is set to ch. 5. ToString method. Converts to a string representing the data in this string buffer. 6. Insert method, int offset char_c. Inserts the string representation of the char argument into this string buffer. 7. Delete method, int start, int end. Removes the characters in a substring of this string buffer. 8. Replace method, int start, int end, string str. Replaces the characters in a substring of this string buffer with characters in the specified string. 9. Reverse method. The character sequence contained in this string buffer is replaced by the reverse of the sequence. 10. Append method, string str. Appends the string to this string buffer. 11. SetLength method, int new length. Sets the length of this string buffer. Now in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. An applet is a part of a web page, just like an image or hyperlink. Java applets cannot be run directly by the operating system. Instead, they must run within the Java Runtime Environment, JRE, or within another program that includes a Java plugin. Applets making JavaScript to Java calls and vice versa should be designed with the thread-related issues in mind. Strings are a common and important part of programming. Java has added special support for several string operations within the syntax of the language. String class is immutable. Example, strings in Java, once created and initialized, cannot be changed on the same reference.